Hi teachers, it's Dawn, and in this video I'm going to show you a little bit about eDynamic. When you get your eDynamic class, these things will all be unpublished. These are all the modules in the class. Typically in an eDynamic class, there's between 5 to 8 different modules. Each of these is a module, and inside of these modules there's very similar things. So we'll talk about that just in a second. If we start top to bottom here, these things in here, these are all for teachers. That's why it says teacher resources. This is where you're going to see sort of a pacing guide. I don't find this very helpful because they are not using our quarter system. So I will give you some tips in another video about pacing for this class. There is information here about how to do blended learning, online learning, those types of things. These are extremely important. So these are the answers and the questions for all of your assessments. And what you're going to find in eDynamic is that the questions and the project directions are not with the Dropbox. So when the students turn things in, you will see all their answers, but you won't necessarily know what that goes with. So when you're teaching an eDynamic course, kids will be turning in lots of different assignments all the time. So it's good to have, I made a paper copy of these so that I can refer back to them, because sometimes kids will be in chapter 4 while you're still grading assignments from chapter 1 and chapter 2. So for me, it was very difficult to keep track of what all the different assignments were. So I just printed out a paper copy of all the different questions so I could quickly refer back to them. I keep them in a binder. So this is just for you. Obviously, you are not going to publish any of these answers or anything in the Teacher Resources Guide. Getting started for students. So this is for them. And the first couple weeks of class, I did refer back to this with them. I had a different About the Teacher page, but you do want to personalize this and put in your information so students know where to go to find out information about you. After that, when you are looking inside these modules, they're all sort of set up the same. Everything with a link directs back to eDynamic. So students do click in here. They do stay inside of Canvas. But when it's a link like that, it means that you are actually looking at content on eDynamic. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer to load here, is because I can't edit this content. This is actually a link that goes back to eDynamic. And a couple important things in here. If you go up to the top left, you see this little guy here. All of these eDynamic courses are set up the same way. So it will actually read to the kids and highlight as it's going along. There's actually a dictionary. They can actually type on here. They can look into the different parts of this eDynamic curriculum. But remember, this is eDynamic curriculum and you cannot edit it or change it in any way. All of these things with the links right here, these are all the content. So lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, this is the content for this module. And then after that, these are all different assignments. So the Unit 1 podcast, if they want to have it read to them, all lessons 1 through 4, they can listen to this podcast. But again, inside of each one of these, eDynamic will read it to them individually. Here is the most common problem with eDynamic is kids see an assignment right here, Unit 1 Critical Thinking Dropbox. They see that it's due, they click on this, and there's nothing in here. This is literally just a place for them to put the answers, all right? So Unit 1 Critical Thinking Dropbox, on their screen, of course, it says submit, and then they always email you and say, what am I supposed to do for this? So you do need to train your students to look at the assignment which is above the assignment, because that is where they're actually going to find all the questions. So right here, here's the Unit 1 Critical Thinking Dropbox. Right here, Unit 1 Critical Thinking questions. So they go here. I always tell my students to copy and paste the questions into a Google Doc. So here's all the questions for them. I tell them again to copy paste these into a Google Doc, and then when they get to the next page, which is the Dropbox, then they can insert that Google Doc, and then they have the questions and the answers. It's easier for you because you have the questions, and it's easier for them because they can work on it over time. So again, that's the most complicated piece, and it's probably the thing I get the most questions about is where are the actual questions? So again, here's the assignment. Here are the questions that go with it. Here's the activity. Here's the Dropbox. The Dropbox is where they're going to submit the activity. So everything in eDynamic is set up that way. It does have some things like flashcards where they can study. It does have a quiz and then always 2 discussions. So that's how every single one of these is set up. There might be a slight difference in the number of activities or the number of discussion questions or something like that, but they're all pretty much set up the same way. After the midway point, there is a midterm and a discussion, and at the very end, there is a final exam and a final exam discussion. But other than that, they are all sort of set up the same way. All right. Please let me know if you have questions, and I can help you. Thanks so much.